When the Royal Yacht Britannia was launched back in 1953, the Queen wanted to be not just a pleasure vessel, but a royal palace at sea.
In the 44 years that followed, the yacht sailed more than 1 million miles, visiting every continent as the Queen enjoyed numerous holidays and wined and dined world statesmen on board.
As chef to the Queen, Princess Di and William and Harry, Darren McGrady travelled the world with the royal family.
Today, after 19 years, he's returned to the Royal Yacht Britannia to cook up a right royal favourite.
I get goosebumps every time I come on board. It's the smell, it's the atmosphere on here. She's incredible. I spent 11 years on here and I just love coming back on board.
The Royal Yacht could accommodate nearly 60 guests for a royal dinner or make that 200 for a meet and greet.
That's a lot of meeting and greeting, and all this would be prepared by just 5 palace chefs in 2 tiny kitchens.
As you sail into Miami and you're in the kitchens cooking a banquet for President Reagan and President Ford, there's so many happy memories on Britannia.
Darren joined the kitchens at Buckingham Palace in 1981, just after Charles and Diana wed.
He rose to the prestigious position of Princess Diana's private chef and remained in royal service until her death in 1997.
And in the same year, after an illustrious career, the Royal Yacht became too expensive to run and took her last voyage.
But we haven't seen the end of Britannia. She now has a permanent home in Edinburgh, where she's become a 5-star tourist attraction.
Being back in the Royal Galley is amazing. Here in my H.M.Y, almost 30 years later, and I feel as if, the Queen's coming on board and I should be preparing something. It's not changed at all, it's amazing. What I'm making for you is an eggs drum kilbo. It's a Scottish recipe that was a favourite of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. And the royal family loved the eggs drum kilbo so much that it was served at the wedding of Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. So every member of the royal family loved the eggs drum kilbo. I think that most of the food that the royal family ate, certainly during the time that I was cooking for them, was traditional British food. Certainly that food that comes from the royal kitchens, it's all been recreated again, and we're seeing it come back again, because all it was in the olden days was local produce, just cooked perfectly, like the eggs drum kilbo that's been in the family for years and years.
What'd he say? Legs akimbo?
No, Dave, eggs drum kilbo. It's a mixture of hard-boiled egg, seafood, ketchup and a sherry aspic. A kind of transparent, flavourless jelly in which cold fish, poultry and meats are sometimes served.
One of the things we can never do for cooking for the royal family was to have the seeds in any of the food, because you don't want the seeds stuck in your teeth when you're talking to the Queen. It was interesting because whenever we prepared dishes like these, we didn't take out one particular dish that we served for the Queen, one particular plate. So you made sure everything was perfect by making sure every single one of the dishes was perfect. So on a normal day, it would have been 5 chefs working in here. One of the chefs would have been across the way, one just tucked around the corner, and then 3 chefs working in this small kitchen area here. On my tray here, I've got some nice pieces of lobster that I'm just going to glaze to make it look really, really shiny. We've got some homemade mayonnaise and some tomato sauce with some Worcestershire sauce, and we're going to mix those 2 together. That is just perfect now. What we have to do next is mix the shrimp, the eggs and the tomatoes. It smells amazing, the shrimp and the lobster. This size dish would probably serve about 8 people. It's a first course, so they just dig in a spoon and just take a little size piece. And the sherry aspic just stops it from drying out in the refrigerator.
The dish goes into the fridge to cool, and whilst waiting, Darren can't resist a sneaky look around the rest of the yacht.
Whenever Britannia arrived into a port, it was always a moment of great pomp and ceremony.
Tonight, the Royal Yacht Britannia is the centre of attention here on the Huangpu River.
And once off the Royal Yacht, Her Majesty was obliged to eat less familiar food.
After sea slug, they're taking everything as it comes. But what the Duke wanted to know was this. The answer, it's a melon, scooped out and filled with sweet soup.
Whilst on board, the Britannia was the Queen's home from home.
And smile.
And good old-fashioned British food was the order of the day. But that wasn't to say it wasn't a bit fancy-like.
And in return for sea slug and shark's fin, the Queen is serving her guests tonight sole moose and duckling, and instead of 10 courses, a modest 4.
Darren's prepared only the one course today, and with the aspic set, there's just time to add the finishing touches.
And that, hairy bikers, is eggs drumkilbo.
That's a proper posh prawn cocktail, that's what that is.